Ooh. Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. So, I don't know if I'm starting to get sick or what. We do got one sickie in the house. It's also been really cool in the mornings, and I've been sleeping with my fan on, with both fans on. And usually at about this time, like the air gets really dry, and my humidifier broke years ago. And the old water in the can trick does help, but I haven't been doing it. And I've been feeling the air dry out in my room for a few days now, and I guess I waited for it to get like this until I did anything. But anyway, so today I thought I did it. I know I talked about it. Was it on the other channel? I don't think so. Um, with that last Aquarius full moon, it crept into Pisces. And I remember talking about it, but I can't find the video. I was going to reference it to see if it um, was all sort of relevant or related. But I guess, in all honesty, like, I wouldn't necessarily know. I feel like my experience and the collective experience aren't necessarily the same. So, anyway, give me a second. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. Eve! What? So, you going to do it after? Good morning. How are you? Woo! It's so dry. It's one of those dries when, like, if a liquid passes over it, it, like, irritates it. So, I was watching a video yesterday. Oh, nice. Hopefully, I'll be there. I'm supposed to be recording a podcast episode today and catching up with one friend. And another might call me back today. We talked briefly yesterday. My throat is burning. And I don't know where the cough drops are. I think my little brother took them. He's back. And whenever he's back, chaos follows. One second. I just turned off the fan. Eve, now that you mention it, I still don't know if I've gone back and I finished that video. I think I started it like a second or third time, and I got like halfway through it, and then something happened. But I kind of am. I feel like I miss out on a lot of stuff here, and I'm behind on stuff, and I haven't been utilizing my watch later playlist. So stuff I just like miss, and then I forget. Because I'd be like, oh, I'm not gonna forget to watch that later. It's in my subscription box, and then time passes, and it's like the next day or something, or someone uploads like all 12 signs, or someone else goes live like 7 times in one day, and I lose it. I'm like, what? But I am loving being busy. I'm kind of loving it a lot. Um, I've realized that, excuse me, I've realized that what I've been wanting is like here. Cause so I was talking to my buddy yesterday, the Libra, my only friend in me, the one that I used to hate listening to. Or I hated when he was right. And I was talking about my finances now, and we came up with a budget that would allow me to save for travel, which I really wanted. That's something that I want in my experience. I said I wanted at least like 2 trips a year. Um, Also, like for me to take care of financial obligations. And it's like what we came out with is like perfect. And like it has like it's a very healthy um amount set aside for travel. And I mean, honestly, like I can move stuff because I don't know if I need to save that much to travel in a year. But yeah, I almost cried Friday. I almost cried on Friday when I got paid because I was like, wow. And then it's like, I get this again in 2 weeks. What? Um, and I think there have been little moments where everything has hit me, but, and it always feels like it's cumulative. Hey, Emily Rose. A strange vision of a wormhole. I watched Dua Lipa's levitating, hey Twitty, animated video earlier today, and she was going through like a wormhole, and it reminded me of a dream I had one time when I was on an airplane, and we went through a wormhole, and the people were like, "Oh, like I'm not gonna get to my destination on time," blah blah blah. I'm like, "Are y'all serious? You think the crew planned this? You think the pilot knew what was happening? No, if they did, I don't know." Um, but yeah, I realized like, wow, this is like this isn't it because there's still more. And like even the like Friday was wild. It was my first payday. Good morning, Skywalkers. Like I had a conversation with my boss, and she was like, "Hey, like you were the person who like did the computer stuff, right?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Good," because the person who was here before didn't really keep track of stuff, so we're gonna have to go in. She was like, "I'm gonna have to go in and like do stuff from the ground up, basically." And I'm taking 2 databasing classes right now because I wanted to add that to my repertoire, to my tool kit belt, whatever. And I've been like, as I'm taking these classes, I'm realizing how much it could actually help these people. And then she asked me to like to participate in doing it, and it's like that in a way like aligns. Like I have different interests, but that aligns with some interests. And then there was some miscommunication. I was like, "This is crazy," blah 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 blah. But I'm like, "Wow." And then of course I talked to my ex roommate because we were starving together. He was starving and working. I was starving and not working. Um, but he would spend all his money on alcohol. And I'm like, why don't you eat with this? But anyway, I was like talking to him, and that's when it kind of sort of hit me. He was like, "Wow, Pat, we made it." I was like, "Yeah, I remember when we were starving in the avenue, took a bunch of change up to Taco Bell to get some dollar burritos." And I'm doing something that like I would have never thought I would do because I wasn't capable. Like my eyes would have prevented me from doing like basically everything I'm doing in a way. Um, so it's just like, I don't know. This month in my life has been amazing. Because I started August 30. My first day in the lab was September 1st. So I'm just like, wow. So that's one thing. Energy going up in a spiral. Ooh, that's interesting. Mesopotamia. You were 42 before you could afford your first vacation. And that's another thing. I'm realizing, I guess, like how blessed I am. And it's funny because like I've been thinking about it for the past few days. And I know, and I'm not trying to, I guess the thing that I am aware of in my reality and how I choose to engage with my reality as compared to how I view other people and theirs. For me personally, there's a certain power to words that I don't give them. I feel like it will require a whole bunch of like linguistic gymnastics, and I don't have the time to get into the etymology of every single word that comes out of my mouth to know where it comes from or what it could secretly mean or whatever. I believe in intention. I believe in consciously overriding the word with the intention and not having to do a whole bunch of extra whatever. And so I guess for me, it's like I've been thinking about how blessed I am. And then I heard somebody who I used to watch sometimes say, like, I would never be less. And then it was like, you would never be less. Well, never mind. Just for me, I don't go into all that. Who early birthday? Your birthday is Tuesday. Happy early birthday, Twitty. Are you a Libra? No, wait, that's Virgo. I think Wednesday is Libra, right? Yeah, Wednesday is the start of Libra season. Um, and then another thing, so that was one thing. Another thing I've been thinking about for a minute now is my energy and my energetic dynamics. So the way that I'm energetically set up when I'm in certain spaces, why am I wearing these? Oh, so I can read these. When I'm in certain spaces, I feel like I use a lot of mirrors. And I guess I had to like think about why some time ago now, not extremely long ago. But I think from the outside in, the mirror is this energy of like, you have to face you and see you before you can see me. You'll be able to see me to the capacity that you're able to see yourself. But because my belief system is set up and structured in a way where I don't personally believe that every single thing or person outside of me is a reflection of me, I believe that everything and person outside of me is a piece and part of the all, just like I'm a piece and part of the all, but we're like different parts and different pieces. But if we hold some resonance and yeah, if we hold some resonance and some similarity, then it's like, well, we had the same parent basically, but we're completely different individuals. And so, because I don't know, it's in, so that's how I guess I take it. And then with the mirrors internally, it came out. I did it might have been like an ancestral reading, but it came out for me that there's a certain way that I'm structured or set up, or there's a certain way that I perceive myself in totality, where it compartmentalizes my vastness. And so it's like I have this piece of me, I have that piece of me, I have all of these different pieces and parts and fragments of me myself as a whole, like let alone source as a whole. And I use those mirrors internally almost to like see different aspects of myself at the same time and to get them to collaborate in a way to do whatever I need to do in the moment. And so I guess it's like, because it's just something it came up. Okay. And so that's why it's like outside of the mirrors, it's one thing to like look into it. It's almost like, you think you look through a house of glass, but it's actually a house of mirrors. So you see you. Unless you can see through the mirror, then you see me. And oh, snap. I didn't change everything. Oof. One second. Sorry. And then inside, it's just me trying to work with different parts of me. It's me trying to bring different aspects, again, of myself to the table to get something done. And there was one instance in particular where it's like I was doing something and I needed bounds on myself, basically, to like not go too far, to not be too much or whatever. And so I set complementary aspects of myself or complementary aspects of energy around me that I was working in against each other to sort of like set that framework, right? To build the box, the sand blocks to play in. So, wait. But that's just how it works and it was set up for me. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's for everybody. I wouldn't say that anything is for everybody. I would say that it's for us to discover our own things, but we got to start somewhere, right? And so, anyway, so going back to the mirror thing, and then I was thinking about the full moon that's tomorrow and how the opposition aspect is one that's typically like challenging in some way, but it feels like when anything opposes the sun, since like tropical astrology is told from an earth perspective, right? That's why we don't see earth in the chart somewhere because we're on earth. Um and even Vedic astrology is like earth centric, but I think it accounts for the layout of the solar. I don't know. I don't know. The way I'm thinking about astrology right now, it's that anything that opposes the sun is happy because it can be seen from earth. And it's like in its fullest light. We can see because I've been looking at the moon like last night and the night before, and it's like with it being that close to opposing the sun, you can see all the features on its surface, basically, all the little dark spots and stuff like that. When something in our solar system opposes the sun, it can be seen on Earth, and so that's why I pulled these two, and then this is just a theme, I guess. Speak truth at the bottom of the deck. There you go. Oh well. And who in the pillar? Yeah. That's another thing that kind of sort of hit me yesterday, I guess. It's like now that I've gone beyond in my physical world, in my physical reality, now that I'm going to be able to have access to the things that I want to do in my day to day life, it's time for me to more fully step into the things that I want to do in my internal life, I guess. And it's just like, I feel like humans are almost structured in a way where they can lead a lot of stuff, but we lag behind it. And I say that because, especially nowadays, Reem, Reem. The song will come out tomorrow. I sang that on Thursday because it was the day before payday. Annie is my mom's favorite musical. My mom loves Annie. I think I actually went to go see Annie on campus. And I saw Mamma Mia, but I think like we have the potential to lead in a lot of ways. Like we can track astrological transits now. And ephemerises have been out for like a long time. We've been able to track the movement of planets for a long time, to the point where we can like predict out where they're going to be, and then they're there. And so it's almost like, to hold a belief in an applicable astrology and to also have the means of prediction, it's almost like you would think that in some ways we would be better able to match subtleties before they become dense enough to be sort of perceivable. I don't know how else to say it. Starborn Berg, how you doing? Oh, what? You've forgotten about that until this morning. Well, maybe there's something that you're ready to stand up and do now that you were afraid to do before, Emily. But I feel like we lag in a lot of ways. And yesterday for me, it was just like that. I don't know. It's like I'm ready to take off, or it's time. I have to. And it's an energy of how we interact with things, I guess, and how we've been interacting with things. I don't know. So this is going to be the last full moon, because that full moon in Aquarius shifted like right into a full moon in Pisces. Like the sun and the moon were like what, 4 degrees opposed, maybe between 3 and 4 degrees opposed when. So like when the sun shifted into Virgo at 0 degrees, the moon was like 4 degrees Pisces. So we actually had some of this energy before we had the new moon in Virgo. So it's almost like being presented the dream and then being given the opportunity to work on establishing it, to work on grounding it into reality. And then now we're going to see, but that's the thing about these moons right now, is that we're almost running 2 cycles. It's like there's the leading and lagging. It's all relative, because you are where you are and it doesn't matter, right? I am where I am and it doesn't matter anything else, because I am where I am. But it's like there's this leading line that is still around from when we were doing the full moons first and then the new moons. And then there's the current line. It's not even lagging, it's just current, where we're in that new moon, full moon phase. But it's like we've already gotten a preview of this. And so it's like we can gauge how well we've made those changes to our daily routines in whatever way we needed to again ground that more and more into our reality. But on the other hand, maybe it's like we can see, it's almost like the full moon in Pisces may project out a bit. And so we can maybe almost see how our current daily routines and habits and I want to say practices, and just like the way that we go about things and the way that we approach things mentally. I feel like Virgo is a very like mental to physical like sign. Virgo is very like actualizing in a way to me. And so it's like we're going to be able to see how that projects out into the future. And then we'll be able to make a choice with this full moon in Pisces, whether we want to continue down that path or readjust. And with that new moon in Virgo, potentially some things shifted and changed and happened. But yeah, I like that for you, Emily Rose. I love that. Yeah, and it is Starborn Virgo, Sun, Pisces, Moon. Really? You're a full moon, baby? Oh, snap. Hey, Lila. 3 Virgos turning 12 today. Do you have triplets? Oh, my gosh. Or were they born on different years, just same day? Energy feels taffy like now. Weird. I mean, I feel like I was in a similar space. I feel like I've been in a similar space where it's just like what I experience. So I guess my thing is, I don't know. What? Didn't that come out recently? Was that in Sagittarius or no? Because I feel like, was it Eve or was it Ariel? Somebody was like triplets, and now somebody showed Lila got triplets. Oh, all 3, the 3 little Virgos. Okay, so I'm gonna do this in the style of. I gotta go to the bathroom. I think somebody just went in there though. In the style of this side, that side is how I'm gonna do this. And I'm putting these down here this way to save space. I'm gonna read all cards up, face up, because I don't know how I got this. So this side, that side. It's if you've ever played war, it's basically the same. But this is the energy that it's surrounding. Now this is where we are. These 3. Well, I guess these 3 are the clarifiers, background supporting leading up to energy, and then these are the ones closest to it. So the aces are 11s, and I guess they tie with the page. 2 through 10 is 2 through 10. Knights beat pages and aces, and kings and queens are equal. Majors trump everything, and they hold the same value. Oh, good. Very different. Oh, wow. Eve, you got twins? Eve is like, oh, this little Virgo, all these feelings, all of these emotions. So the Conqueror of Coins is going to take this. See, this is interesting. So this is how I'm doing it, and this is why I decided to do it this way. This isn't necessarily that leading energy, but this is what the last full moon in Pisces, or like that in between Aquarius and Pisces full moon energy, is contributing. This is sort of what's coming. And so this actually contributes to this, but if we don't necessarily see it, then it doesn't. It's like when applicable, it applies. Right? Everybody's got multiple. Everybody's got sets. So the Conqueror of Coins. See, the Four of Coins is it's this space of lack, but it's not necessarily lack in the traditional sense. The Four of Coins here, well, that's the Five of Coins. The Four of Coins here, it's feeling like disparity. It feels like the disparity between where we are and where we want to be. And the Four of Coins in that place of disparity, it feels like holding on to what you have in a way that it feels like a self-comforting energy. And I roll my eyes because I don't want to be doing all this Heyoka stuff no more. I'm like, I'm done with the Heyoka life. With the Heyoka life ain't done with me. It's this energy of like, rather than encouraging ourselves and rather than comforting and encouraging and motivating ourselves to the more, to continuously progress, because that's kind of sort of what Virgo new moon can be. I feel like Virgo new moon is different than Capricorn new moon because Virgo new moon has an energy that applies it implies that there's already a system and structure in place and that you have to change it. That's why it's mutable earth. Capricorn new moon energy, Capricorn energy in general feels like you're building from the ground up. And so there's not really anything there to, it's like a blank slate. But with Virgo, it's like you have to partially erase and like reconstruct, and Virgo is more transitive. And so instead of us moving forward to that, it's like we hold back where we are. And it's like, well, at least I got this, I got that. And like, I can be happy here. And then over here, this is the energy that slowly moves forward. This is the one, it's almost like this one shrinks back and this one expands forward. I feel like, though, that element of compassion, self compassion is super important, right? We don't have to be down on ourselves for whatever. Like, this opportunity, I wouldn't have been as comfortable taking if I like, so it took me 9 years to get my degree. If I would have graduated in 4 years in 2015, first of all, the company that I work at now was a different company then because they just recently got purchased last year, like a year ago, a year and a month ago. It was last August. Secondly, my eyes now weren't what they were then. I wouldn't have been able to see a lot of this stuff. And my eyesight would have deteriorated even more. And it's like all things in perfect timing. And it took me a while to not, I feel like it didn't take me as long to accept that it took me as long as it took me, but there were times when I would joke about it. But the Delta, what Delta? Oh, snap, Starborn Virgo, are you getting scientific on me? The Delta sign, the differential. Way of taking life, living life, not taking life. Way of living life one day at a time. Gotcha. Cancers are Scorpios wearing house coats. I read that years ago, and it's true. Oh, I gotta go pee. So this is the energy that moves forward. This is the energy. It's tempted to draw back. The category here is the universe. Who what literally just read it? Twitty? Twitty with the taffy energy. And look at these strings like pulling the atmosphere. It's like this is the atmosphere. This is the earth on the surface. This is what you would see when the earth opposes the sun on another planet. When the earth is that shining star in the sky. But we can't see earth from where we are. And maybe that energy is here too. Where it's like we can't see ourselves, or it's challenging to see ourselves in our true radiance sometimes because of where we are in life. it's easier to see in everyone else, because when the sun opposes them, you get like full, like everyone's taking selfies now, right? Like that's when the lighting is the best. If you stand in front of the sun, then you're gonna get like backlit and you're gonna be like a shadow person. I'll be right back. I gotta go to the restroom. 1 second. Ooh, sorry. Oh God. Ooh, I should have made some OT. My throat ain't hurting yet though, so that's not all bad. Okay, what y'all saying? 12th house Virgo sun. I have an 11th house Pisces sun. 12th house Mercury in Pisces though. Okay. So when I was in the bathroom, when I was washing my hands, this card reminds me almost of what I was saying earlier. It feels like sometimes, when applicable, and different modalities, different beliefs, different structures are useful and helpful and beneficial at different points along our phase, along our journey, and depending on who we are, right? So, like, training wheels are helpful if you don't know how to ride a bike. But after you learn how to ride the bike and after you're proficient in bike riding, it's almost like training wheels can be a hindrance, right? And then if you want to move up to a motorcycle because it goes faster and you're a little older, you have a license or whatever, then the bike would feel a lot slower than the motorcycle. It would also feel like you have to work a lot harder, a lot longer to get to the same place. But if you're not ready for the motorcycle, like there are almost in some ways, it's like there are more risks and greater threats to bodily harm and injury when you ride the motorcycle rather than the bike with training wheels. And so I wanted to preface what I was about to say with that. But it is almost this energy where it's like if you look at everything as a reflection of you, when applicable, if you look at everything as a reflection of you, you miss out on its truth because it may hold a truth that you don't hold. And when you do that, you may also miss out on your truth because the disparities between you and other people, the disparities between where you are and where you want to be, the disparities between what you experience in your environment and what you want to experience in that environment shows you where you are. Just like the disparities between you and other people can show you your truth and what you believe and what's closer to the soul of you. And this universe card, it feels like I got my magical pointing pen. It feels like there's this energy here. You see these three? Well, there are some of these threads that don't connect at all. There are these three that connect to the outer surface. So this is something that you would only see in the light. You would only see these when this world is opposing the sun. And since it's the universe, this is the universe opposing the great central sun is in the universe. That's the paradox that we'll accept. This is the universe opposing the sun. Now, when you get down here, you can see this even when it's not this shiny, but like there aren't any threads that come from this hand that reach the surface of this planet or that reach the core of this planet. If you want to say this is the core, this is the surface, this is the atmosphere, or if this is the atmosphere, this is the surface, and you can't even see the core of the planet, which is how I'm feeling it. But again, this isn't being seen, it's not being connected to. And I feel like that's an energy that it's like this will, it's almost like it's reminding me of electrons and atoms and how electrons fill out the shell, the electron shells. And so before you can expand into an outer area, you have to fill up the inside first. But it almost feels like it's different here. It's the opposite. It's like before you can expand further into this, you have to establish more connections. So this one is almost connected here, right? So there are 3 here and then 2 here. So let's do a 1, 2, 3. So we need to maintain 3 connections out here. So this one is close enough. When this one connects, it gives permission for one of these two to come down here and connect here to fulfill the 2 that we need connected here. And then one of these threads can connect to the core. And that's why it's like there are these extra strings. And it feels like that's the way that we do it and maintain a sense of self. It feels like if we try to bypass this and connect even deeper without making sure those outer shells are fully anchored, that's when we can experience a lot of internal chaos almost, because there's something there that's not grounded. And so it's like it's arcing power. It's like an energy drain. And I think sometimes in our spiritual ecstatic bliss or in a rush to reach a certain point, we try to shortcut and bypass certain things. Like for me personally, and I could be wrong, right? But like when I was in my room meditating basically every day, starving, not working, didn't know how I was going to pay rent. But I also knew that it wasn't for me to work and it wasn't for me to be in class, because when I worked and when I was in class, I never had the time. I didn't make my mental health a priority, basically. Long story short, I didn't make my mental health a priority. And if I was doing anything else, it would have fallen to the wayside. Now that my internal state is a priority, I can do other things. Now that my internal fire is burning bright, I can appreciate other sources of light. But I started to feel like I started to have this experience. And then, like, that was February into March. So, August into September, it's like that experience, what I was feeling, that's like, oh, that's your Kundalini energy. It rises and it comes out of the Fontini bone. It's like the last bone to sort of fuse in the brain. It's like the softest spot or whatever. Like the energy actually comes out there and you can feel it. So I was like, what? I had a whole Kundalini awakening and I didn't even know it. I did notice though, I was like, this is weird because I'm feeling this breeze right now and my fan is off and my windows are closed. But for me, it was natural. Like it just kind of sort of happened. For me, it wasn't like something that I found somewhere, I heard somebody talk about, and then I tried to force myself to have it. And so it wasn't, in my personal experience, um, it wasn't like, because I know some people have talked about it and how like it can make them sick. It can do all kinds of things. I've like after I had that experience, and I mean, I found spiritual YouTube. Boy, I had a whole like 4, 5, 6 months alone in my room before I even like really started to connect to people on YouTube or started to watch people and engage with them and to watch regularly. And like, and some of the videos I was looking up because I was like, oh, what's this? Like, what's a Kundalini awakening? People are like, yeah, like I got really sick. I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks and my body was doing this and it was doing that. And like, if you're not ready for it, like, don't do it. And anyway, hey, Kim, hey, EP, hey, anybody else I missed? I'm like barely uh paying attention. Ooh. But what was I talking about that for? Oh, because I feel like that's one example where it's like there are these things that we can naturally reach. I saw something else on the internet yesterday that was like it was like the physical body is the weakest whatever part of you or something like that. And in Patrick's world in reality, I feel like the physical body is just as capable as any of the other bodies. Like it has a sensitivity and a subtlety to it. Like it alerts us of things that we don't even know about, like immediately. And it's even like sometimes if your intuition isn't even picking up on something, your physical body might start to react to energies that you aren't even aware of. And then you're like, why am I feeling like this? And then something goes down, and then you're like, oh, like that's why. I feel like it can be just as powerful. And it's interesting that we have pentacles here, right? And it is, the sun is in Virgo, the moon is in Pisces. So there's that both mutable bridge between the physical and the spiritual. But in some way, it's almost like Pisces is the water that's closest to the earth, and Virgo is the earth that's closest to the water. But anyway, so this side is going to take it, but this is where we are. So the Hanged One, the Conqueror of Coins, and the Ruler of Wands. See, I like this Conqueror of Coins, because it's like eventually you would get here anyway. So we're going to restructure this. Can you still? Barely. So this is going to come here. The Conqueror of Coins, the Lovers, the World, and the Nine of Swords. Even though it's kind of like this. There we go. I'll read it like that. So with this trajectory, here's that feeling of pulling back that I was talking about. It feels like this energy, instead of pushing itself to get to more. Yeah, I mean, that was a huge lesson for me, Reem, because like, so that summer, I was starting to get opportunities that scared me. And I would be so excited up until the moment, but then I was like, oh, like I'm not feeling right. Like, what if something goes down or blah, blah, what if this, what if that? And I was like, wait. I was like, is this my anxiety? Because I was fine until like yesterday. But now that it's time for me to actually do something that pushes me outside of my comfort zone, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is anxiety. So that in that semester, there was a whole like telling the difference between anxiety and intuition. And a lot of times my intuition would push me to do something outside of my comfort zone, and then my anxiety would try to keep me from doing it. So that's when I was just like, okay. Oh, or that's how it played out for me because my anxiety was triggered by a lot of fear. It was like fear that this might happen or fear that that might happen, fear that like, well, what if I want to leave and somebody else is taking me, then I'm not going to be able to leave if I want to leave. So there was like some control stuff, and my anxiety was just like the catch all for all of that. It was like, all of these things that you weren't thinking about because you were excited by this possibility and you wanted to stretch yourself. Well, here they are. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to do it anyway. And it's some of the most, like, those are some of the most amazing experiences I've had. I'm so glad. Like, one of them, it was a neighborhood iftar. So in town, there was a Muslim something, something. And so they wanted to open up the iftar one day during Ramadan to break their fast with people in the community. And it was an opportunity to like learn and to have conversations. So like we talked about faith and belief and all kinds of stuff. I was actually a participant in the conversation. I didn't expect to be a participant in the conversation. I had some good food. I had a date and some kisses. Like I ate a date and they had Hershey kisses. um, but I was like, wow, that was amazing. And then I participated in a men's leadership series and like same thing. And every time I've gone outside but for me, those experiences helped me to differentiate between anxiety and intuition. And it helped provide experiences where going outside of my comfort zone was extremely fulfilling and beneficial and all kinds of things that I couldn't even imagine. And so it was an opportunity, and very much so that Virgo way. It's like to exchange an old set of experiences for a new one. But if you don't allow it to happen, then that handover never takes place, and you essentially get more of the same, not because things haven't moved or progressed, but because we don't allow for anything different to occur. So that was a big lesson for me. 29 or 20 yeah 2019 was a huge year for me. 2019 January I started very conscious about growth and evolution and stuff like that, which is why I was like, you know what, I can starve in my apartment and get myself together before I go back to school. I'm glad that happened in 2019 because 2020 would have destroyed 2020 would have taken out pre-together Patrick. Pre-together Patrick would not have survived 2020. I would not be here on earth. um but oof, it was like relationship anxieties, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. See, 2019 must have been a big year. But like for me, that was like 2 years before my Saturn return, or three, because my return officially hits like next April, I think. I think like America has its Pluto return in February, and then I have my birthday, and then I have my Saturn return not too long after. So I'm glad 2019 happened because my Saturn return, if 2020 didn't take me out, oof, I mean, I haven't gone through it yet, but from the sound of it, that Saturn return might have. Um, but I don't know. I'm actually not too worried about my Saturn return because I've developed a habit and a practice of like being proactive. So, like, if something comes up, I do my best to address it so that it doesn't build up into like I'm trying to take care of everything so Saturn ain't got nothing to like blow out of proportion and just try to tear my life apart with. So I'm low key excited for it, but it's fine. So anyway, back to this. So this is that pulling away energy, and then we experience this stuckness. Then after the stuckness, we decide to move forward in some small way. Now, this moving forward in some small way is where that last full moon is starting us. So it's like if we had the opportunity, I guess, to see it then and to be working on that before the new moon in Virgo hit, because like it's almost like that's the thing, and that's why we're coming into the lovers and in the world. It's like if we had the opportunity to do it then, we're already making different choices and decisions. When that Virgo new moon came around, it's like, oh, I can start to put into play everything that will sort of bridge me to where I want to be. And then you come up with this world energy where it's like you have successfully almost, I don't want to say reprogrammed yourself, but you've like you've handled and taken care of the things that keep you from expansion, that keep you from your like your land, your world, from like growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, rather than getting like smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because of this Four of Pentacles hangman energy. And when you're in a Four of Pentacles hangman energy, it puts you even more in the Four of Pentacles energy. That's when you like you hold tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter to things. When we're in an energy, it's like it's shifting. We should be in the 8, 9, 10 of Pentacles right now. Well, we should be in the 10 of Pentacles right now, heading into the Two of Swords, because 10 of Pentacles is third decan of Virgo, Two of Swords is the first decan of Libra. Libra is going to be a 2, 3, 4 of Swords energy. Libra is the 2, the 3, and the 4 of Swords. So, I mean, you can see how rough that could potentially be. But it's like if you get this taken care of here, then you don't even have to worry about that. And with this Nine of Swords energy after the world, it's like you see the Two of Swords that are piercing each of these eyes, the Three of Swords piercing the crown. Like there are roses growing out of the eyes. It feels like the roses are going to be your natural defense against those energies because of the growth that started to happen in the world card. And there's almost this energy. It's almost like since you did it early, since you've been able to start experiencing the other side, it takes the sting out of a lot of things that would have otherwise taken you out. See, because with this, it's like, you know, you get so fed up of this that you eventually have to do something, no matter how small. And you do. And you come into this King of Wands energy where you start, it's like you start to experience expansion, energies start to shift because you're aligning more to those. And then it's like you hit almost the speed bump. And without this down here, this Nine of Swords would completely deflate that King of Wands energy. That's like, oh my gosh, like Libra season is going to be my season. Like Libra season is abundance. Libra season is like manifestations galore. And then you get into Libra season, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst season of my life. I thought October was going to be amazing and it's difficult. But again, it's almost that energy of never really grounding anything or taking things deeper. A lot of things are superficial. And that's why an opposition is difficult. That would be one of the reasons why an opposition is very difficult, because then you have to see something that you don't want to have to face or look at. When it's opposing the sun, it's in its full brilliance. You can't unsee it. And I think that's what it's almost like that's what triggers us into a purge sometimes. Instead of it's almost like instead of the purge being triggered by like getting ourselves closer to where we want to be, that purge is triggered by things that we don't want to see or things that we don't want to experience. And so we cut it out rather than facing it. And that's why if it comes up in a later cycle again, maybe it's like how Michael Myers comes back every Halloween. And it's like, okay, well, you know, somebody put him in the ground and like let him rest. Let Mike rest. Let Jason rest. Let all these Oogie Boogies rest because they've been haunting for years and they're tired. They're tired. And they're like, but they like, I mean, I guess as long as I need to be here, I'm gonna be here. So boo. And then you're like, oh my gosh, ah! And they're just like, okay. Guess I'm about to chase this girl. Oh snap. Later, Remy. Bun buns. Oh. What? Bunny went on vacation? TTYL? But yeah, and I feel like that's part of the reason why um you hate roses. That's why like this energy, see there's something here about integrating it. It's almost like it's worked its way to the core because these are darker, right? It's lighter on the surface. And maybe that's another thing that a primarily light focus does. It's a superficiality. It's like when snow falls in the winter and everything looks pretty and gorgeous because it's covered in snow. But beneath the snow, it's still the same earth that it was. And so if it wasn't great before the snow fell, putting snow on top of it isn't going to make it any better. Like sweeping stuff under the rug doesn't make the mess go away. Type of energy. So this one gets taken by the dark side, by the core people. But it's almost like, well, that's like layers and layers and layers and layers form on top of the earth, right? That's why it's like if you go to certain canyons, you can see oh, Emily Rose. Oof, no offense, Emily. Um that's why it's like if you dig, you can find like old dinosaurs and stuff like that, right? So this is this side with the universe. Let's do one more and then I'll end this. We'll see what it is first. This is Speak Truth. Ooh. We got a title card. Yeah. This goes back to what I was saying here. It's that energy where it's like not I'm using the Weaver Tarot Journeyman and Ascendant Edition and the Threads of Fate Oracle cards. This one is the Ascendant Edition. You can tell, maybe. There you go. This one is the Journeyer Edition of the Weaver Tarot, and then this is the Rose Edition of the Oracle cards. So when I was saying here, it's like when we can't experience it feels like it makes it more difficult to experience truth when we don't experience things as separate. Then we can learn its truth, we learn our truths, we learn many truths. And it's almost this energy here where it's like, well, how can you speak a truth that you don't even know? That's why the title card is here. And the title card in this deck, it breaks down the mystery. Like it gives you all the symbology, it tells you where everything is in the book. This is basically like the cheat sheet for this deck. And it's almost like you can learn this and you can learn to decode it. Or with that Knight of Pentacles that was just here, which again, it's that Knight of Pentacles. Oh my gosh. That Knight of Pentacles into the lovers, into the world, into the Nine of Swords. But the Nine of Swords is like Nine of Swords proof, right? With these energies, since this is already moving, and because it reaches, let me put this back in order. Because it reaches that completion in the world card, it starts to develop threads that connect to the world, right? That's what I was saying in this card. Like, this is the atmosphere, this is the actual world, this is the path that connected to it. Because it connected to it, it knows this truth. So the truth that this one is speaking with the Six of Cups energy and with this clock, it's like it goes back, like way back. This is an energy that can't speak what it can't understand. It's still trying to decode it, and it may never get there because it was in that Four of Pentacles energy. And it's like, I don't know, the flowers are wilting, there's no growth here. And I feel like it goes back to that leading versus, yeah. At first, I got the white deck. So this is before I got my eyes operated on. I got this deck thinking it was this deck. And then when I got this deck, it was too bright for me to even read anything. So I got this one. And then I found out. So if you go to like threadsoffate.com or something like that, in the shop, they have the section for the decks that with like minor like blemishes and stuff like that. So I got this one for like what, half price maybe, the Oracle cards. And then I get the box. I'm like, there's nothing even wrong with this. Like, let's go. My friend told me about it because Ericsonia, she be on it. Hay House be having sales and stuff like that. And this is interesting because the Magician came out in the Before Tarot. That was an energy of like taking up the sword and the wand. This Speak Truth card is a wand up top and a sword on the bottom. But with Speaking Truth, there's no safe space to grab this wand or to grab this stick. There are thorns at the top and a blade at the bottom, and then there are thorns on the blade. And I think sometimes it's like there are certain things that we try to get to without an element of risk. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's going to happen. So maybe. Well, if you get it, I hope you love it. So none of this even matters. So all of this goes on this side. Wait, no, this side is going to take it. Well, it still doesn't matter. So whatever this is and the light, we won't see. We'll never see it. Now this, the Fool, the Conqueror of Swords, and the Nine of Coins. See, this is almost an energy. It's like because this one was able to make it through the Nine of Swords and the Ten of Swords and the Page of Swords. So the energy of the Nine of Swords, the Ten of Swords, and the Page of Swords are all combined into this Fool energy. And then this one turns into this Knight of Swords to claim the Nine of Pentacles. And it's like a lot of times we want the 9 and the 10 of Pentacles without the 9 or 10 of Swords. And sometimes we're not positioned in the way where there's a path to have it happen that way. And so then it's like, this is the purge of things that you need to sort of like make it along that path to make yourself into someone that is capable and able to persevere and to endure to get where you want to go. Rather than, I mean, it's all valid, but it's almost this energy. I'm not even going to talk about it because this side, it's all face down. It's not fair to talk about that side of the energy if it can't even defend itself. So let's just stay over here. See, This is almost an energy though, because the fool takes a leap, listens to their intuition before they know anything. The fool into this Conqueror of Swords, it's an energy where you know along the way, or you get to know. And something about getting to know here gets us to navigate different here. Conqueror of Coins, Knight of Pentacles is Virgo energy, mutable Earth for me, according to a system that I learned. Okay, and then here's Gemini, mutable air. The Fool is air, or Uranus. These feel like wings. There's a reason why this fool isn't afraid to jump. See, using the metaphor. Oh, this is. Can I ask and be quite explicit with this? What's your definition of this? See, you answer it again. I have. You lost me with that question, Lila. Can you ask it again? Maybe in a slightly different way. I don't know what the see you answer it again means. Your question was, how are we as humans traveling within the next 2 years? Oh, well, I personally feel like there's so much choice right now at play that we can. I mean, like the world is what the world has always been, in the sense that there are many different experiences playing out right now. So, if you're asking me what's going to happen with the collective in the next 2 years, I have no clue. I don't know. It's still being decided. But this feels like an energy. It reminds me of the Wizard of Earthsea. The first book in particular in the Earthsea series, because that's the one where he was like turning into animals and stuff. There was the language of true names. And you could use the language of true names to alter your appearance. And like they said that, but when you alter your appearance, you lose your truth. And maybe that's another thing about this energy here. Because when you alter your appearance, when you take the shape and form of another, you start to embody their truth. And if you get lost in their truth, you lose yourself. And so, um, yeah, I think so, Twitty. Russ actually, he put me onto the series. Um, Russ was like, "Oh, I'm listening to this, and it's about blah 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 blah." All the stuff that it's about. I was like, "Oh, that sounds really interesting." So I found a playlist on YouTube of the first series. Um, and it's really good. It's written by Ursula K. Le Guin, I think. I was listening to the third or the fourth one. I got about halfway through it, then I stopped. But yeah, there you go, Ursula K. Le Guin. Skywalker knows what's it. But again, like with the thing, it's like if you take on the truth of another for too long, you run the risk of forgetting your own truth. And he said that there were many animals in that world, especially dolphins, that used to be wizards. But it's like they're turned into a dolphin and they never wanted to go back to being a wizard, I guess. And so they forgot that they were ever a wizard in the first place. Now they're basically no different than any other dolphin. But with this energy of speak truth, this is an energy because of what it's done within itself. It's almost like because it's learned its own true name, it is permitted access to others. And so it's able to speak another's truth. It speaks an avian truth and it gains the wings to fly. So it's not afraid to fall. And see, with this Six of Cups, it's almost like there are these different things that are. See, I told y'all. I knew those roses were important because that's where they come out. It's like this. There's like this line of roses and that line of roses, and then these two roses. This is the crown. This crown of roses. There's a crown here. And so it permits us access to that which even time has forgotten. And I feel like that's the sort of, I want to say the mutability of the Fool, but it feels like the Fool is an energy that's able to take on others. It's that's literally what the Fool does. So through the major arcana, it's the Fool's journey. So when you see like the magician, it's the Fool at the magician. The Fool like communicating with the magician energy to learn, take on whatever something from the magician. When you see the Fool at the tower, that's like the Fool going through the tower. This Fool and its ability to take on and to be at or to sit with any of the majors can now, like, if I can animate it in a movie or an anime, you would see it, but it's like it's almost like it speaks the word and then the wings appear and it flies, so it's not afraid to fall. And what it does is this feels like it's at the core of this world. Or it's reminding me of what I said about the mirrors again. Excuse me. See, this is an energy. It feels like it's able to exchange truth, to see one's and oneself, and to see how they're connected. It feels like in seeing all the connections, it makes it easier for the Fool to become something else and to never lose itself. And for us to do that as people, as humans, it's just like there are certain things that we can no longer run away from because then we'll always be running. I think a lot of times we turn to mentors and guides, and in some ways, even like religion and spirituality, to compensate for something that is lacking within. And then what we do is we get lost in the compensation. And just like any other substance, it's like it can only fill the void for so long before you seek something else or before you seek more. And it's like it reaches that point where you cease to be. And that's falling under the shadow of the Hierophant. And that's not even necessarily the responsibility of the Hierophant. That responsibility lies on the individual to trade away and give away and sacrifice one's own truth for another because it makes you feel some type of way. And that's something that I was thinking about a while ago. And it takes me back to this energy again, where it feels like there's something here because we are physical, energetic, spiritual, because we are so multifaceted in how we work, because we're both a body and a spirit and a soul and everything else. It's almost like everything needs to be accounted for. And whenever we try to sever one cord and put it somewhere else, if these aren't fulfilled, you're going to feel within your bodies that absence. And it almost feels like it causes certain things to atrophy because it's not getting the proper nutrition it needs. And so, just in general, thank you, Twitty. I don't even know what I would put in the anime. Like, wait. Hierophant, people say it represents Taurus. Hierophant, for me, it represents the shadow side of Sagittarius. And I say for me, Hierophant represents just Sagittarius. Well, this Hierophant for me represents the intellectual side of Sagittarius because Sagittarian energy, ninth house energy, is very studied. It's very it's like it takes what already exists and it moves it further. And I think sometimes in the shadow side of Sagittarius, it doesn't have the flexibility really to accommodate reality. If it's like how Gemini and Sagittarius can play that polarity, it feels like Gemini is like the day to day, like real world. Sagittarius is the academic studied theory. And there are certain things that are good in theory, that are very sound in theory, that are maybe even invaluable or infallible in theory, but in reality, it just doesn't work that way. And I think the Hierophants as like symbolizing structure and organization and stuff like that, for me, I can see Sagittarius or the shadow side of Sagittarius falling into that. Who put Sagittarius on Temperance? I don't know, but I don't feel Temperance from Sagittarius. I could get Taurus from Temperance more than Sagittarius. Because I don't know, I feel like Temperance just isn't really like how I've seen Sagittarius energy talked about. I don't know why we would have ever put Sagittarius there. Maybe even like Virgo. I could see Virgo being Temperance. But anyway. You're a Sagittarius? Oof. Yeah. And I think I've only ever seen it. Ooh, look, there's the sage at the bottom of the deck. I told you. I'm just um who's at the top of the deck? Transmute. Transmute is Temperance. Maybe the cards are saying Sagittarius is Temperance. Get over it. Any energy can be on any card. I just don't know why they put Sagittarius on Temperance. Because I'm like, Sagittarius tempered where? Tempered how? The patience that it takes to go through school and to do more school and then to be recognized in that, maybe. But like when I learned that philosophy wasn't what I thought it was, that was one of the rudest awakenings I've had in my life. I had a friend who double majored in philosophy anthropology, maybe, I don't remember his other major. And I was like, oh, philosophy, like it must be this and it must be that. And he's like, they basically just teach you what other people thought. And it's like, what? They don't encourage you to like take a more philosophical approach to life or teach you how to be more philosophical in your approach to life. It's like, no, you just learn what other philosophers think. And then it's like people dedicate themselves to those philosophers and they take on their thoughts as their own. And okay, so I said we weren't going to look at it, but I accidentally ended up looking at it. So on the light side of that speak truth energy, it's the anchor, the nine of swords, and the nine of wands. And in this, the anchor feels like an anchor. It's heavy. The nine of swords into the nine of wands. It is what it is. That's what it is. But anyway, I was so disappointed. I'm temperance. Get over it. No, I will not get over it, Emily. Sagittarius wrote that list. Your dad was a shrink. What? I was so Starborn Verb because I was feeling like I was like, oh, I missed my calling. I should have went into philosophy just to philosophize about everything. And then he was like, no, you just learn what other people thought and you get graded on their thoughts, not your own. So it's a way to indoctrinate other people into those lines of thinking. And then because we celebrate philosophers in whatever way they're celebrated, we think that we're groundbreaking and we're this and we're that. See, that academia, philosophy, study, thought, maybe it's the way that humanity has done it, especially currently, that makes the Hierophant feel like the shadow of Sagittarius. Because I'm like, so there's no originality in that. And it's almost like the Hierophantic energy lives in the minds and the hearts of those that fall under it. To the point where, again, it's like they lose their own truth to the truth of the Hierophant. And in that sense, I can see it. We're like, yeah, we're all a reflection of the same source. Like you're me and I'm you, and we're all the same thing because we all fall under this Hierophant. We are all the children of the Hierophant. And it's like, you can have that. I'm not. No. I'll be that one wayward sheep that's like, yeah, no, I ain't doing that. And a lot of times we trade one Hierophant for another. But anyway. You feel as if psychology gives more space to philosophizing. I can see that, Starborn Verb. I see that. Wait, what is it? Wait, are you asking me that question, Lila? Or are you just like voicing your question in general? Because as a person with absolutely no children and who is still getting life experience, as we're all getting life experience, I have no clue what to tell you. Just do your best as a parent and love them and pray that the rest works out. I want to see just like what this full moon is. And I'll use this deck. I'll put this one away. Because that was a lot. Ruler of Swords at the bottom of this deck. From that Conqueror of Swords to the Ruler of Swords. And the Two of Coins at the cut. The Ruler, oh well, now it's the 9. But the Ruler of Swords and the Two of Coins, it's an energy that can effectively balance and manage. That's how air helps. That's how air helps the earth. Wait, does what matter? I feel like parenting matters. Yeah. I've reached the point where I want children, but I was like, where my life is, I could not. I could not. But now, I was like, I'm gonna adopt at 30. So we'll see. Maybe 35. Okay. Final message from this deck. We have the Seeker of Cups, the Seeker of Swords, and the Ruler of Cups. The Seeker of Cups, the Seeker of Swords, and the Ruler of Cups. I see coffee mugs and t-shirts. Skywalkers is like branding, branding. Oh, gotcha, Emily Rose. I know like a few of my friends in high school were adopted. I was like, what? You were adopted? I didn't know. Not that it matters, but I can be like that with almost literally anything. It's like, what? You have a brother? Oh my gosh, you have siblings? What? When statistically, it's like a lot of people aren't only children. But when I meet an only child, I'm like, what? You're an only child? You don't have siblings? I'm just surprised at everything. I have no thoughts. I have no opinions. I have no mind. Excuse me. Um, well, I say I don't have kids because I feel like it's easy to like. Well, first of all, like depending on who your kids are, they're gonna be different, and like the way that you parent and approach them might be different. Like my mom has three very different sons, and the way that we're parented, it's similar in a lot of ways because she is who she is, but she recognized and recognizes our different needs. And so she parents us differently. Now, me growing up, I would see how the other ones were parented, and I would be like, what? Blah, 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 blah. I don't, da, da, da. It's like, I don't get rewarded for getting A's. And she's like, well, you don't struggle academically. She's like, you don't even really necessarily have to try and you get A's. So for them, it's something that they have to work on. That's why they get rewarded. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I had that conversation last year. So there was a lot of stuff I was carrying. The lockdown happened. And one day it just came out. And then I can't remember if I reached out to her. I think I did. And we went and we talked. And then that's when she told me, she's like, y'all are all different. So I parent you different. You have different needs. So the things that you need, like they don't need. So it wouldn't benefit you in any way for me to treat you the same as them when treating them the same as them does nothing for you. And I was like, what? So that's why I say, like, without being in that experience, I wouldn't necessarily tell anybody how to raise their kids or like I would say like do your best. Be like present enough with yourself to not because I think like as people, sometimes we experience hardship or difficulty and frustration and we can take it out on whoever is the closest and whoever we can, right? It's like in the traditional familial structure, the dad has a bad day at work and he takes that home. And so the mom catches the bad day from the dad, and then the kids catch the bad day from the mom, from the dad, and maybe from both of them. And then if there's a pet, maybe the pets take it from the kids. And so it's like, don't do stuff like that. Anything you need to work on, whatever. But anything more than that, I'm like, I don't know. Ask the Lord, the universe, your guides, your ancestors. And also it depends on a lot of like you stuff. And I don't really know you, so I don't know. Oh, got you, Emily. She's like, I am not Polish. Do you know about pierogies though? I discovered pierogies because this other dude, he was so hype about pierogies. He was so hype. I went to the dining court. I was like, well, I gotta try the pierogies. Pierogies changed my life. I got frozen pierogies in this little mini fridge over here because don't nobody make them fresh where I am. So shout out to the saint who makes the frozen pierogi, so I can still get my pierogi fix. Um, see, it's like to seek one. This ruler of cups energy comes when seeking both the cups and the sword. It feels like the ruler needs to carry a sword energy. Maybe the sovereign carries a fire energy. The conqueror carries an earth energy, and the seekers carry a water energy. But it's like to be, oh, we just had the King of Cups. Sargon. This is a space where the logical and the intuitive meet. And to be a true ruler of cups, we need both. A healthy amount of both. Or at least an openness to both. And maybe that's a little message for this full moon in Pisces. Bottom of the deck is the anchor. The anchor is an emperor energy in this deck. And then there's the Hierophant. Making sure I got the deck up right. Never had them. We'll have to try. I mean, I think there are many different kinds of pierogies. So I think, like, I favor the savory pierogi. I don't know if you can make a sweet pierogi. You were married in Poland, got blueberry pierogi with cream. What? See, yeah, I've never had like a sweeter pierogi before. So there's a whole pierogi world that I don't even know about. I am looking forward to deepening my love of pierogies. Okay. So full moon Pisces by itself without all of this. Well, if you would have did this, if you would have did that, you had the opportunity. It's like, okay, but I didn't. So can you just help me where I am now? Because if you just gonna tell me all the stuff I should have been doing, that's how I was. I'm like, but I didn't do it, and I can't go back in the past. So from where I am, how can we like? What do we get from where we are? If that was less applicable or whatever, just another whatever. Okay. So, and that's another thing about the Hierophant. It's like you be really feeling like whatever. You be really feeling like you know something. You be really feeling like you got it. And then you're like, wait. And it's like, yeah, girl, that was someone else's truth. And it's like, oh, but I believed that for so long, and I did this and I did that. And it's like, well, I don't know. Shadow side Sagittarius. I was like, I have a PhD and this and this and that. And it's like, okay, well, wrong is wrong. So if it don't work in real life, it don't matter what you got. It's not producing results. So maybe you should have went to, what do they call it? The School of Hard Knocks. I'm just playing. Frozen pierogies are from Chicago. Oh, nothing came out. Is that where Mrs. T lives? Okay, Lila, I have no clue what that is. I literally know pierogies, and that's like it. But if someone else knows and they know what that is, then ooh, maybe they good too. It's all pizza, right? Your grandma was Ukrainian. Loved her cooking. Ooh. I am a Pisces sun, Taurus moon and rising, Mercury in Pisces, Venus in Aries, Mars in Cancer, Jupiter in Libra, Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn, Pluto in Scorpio. My Chiron is in Leo, my North Node is in Sagittarius, and my South Node is in Gemini. So I'm all over the chart. Only thing I don't have is Virgo. So yep. Okay, let's do this one first. So full moon. Full moon. Full moon, full moon. North Node Leo, South Node Aquarius. Oh, the world and the Six of Coins. Those almost fell on the table. Bottom of the deck is the Sovereign of Cups. So the Sovereign of Cups would be that fire and water energy. Excuse me. At least within the context of this. Oh, Moon in Aquarius too. How close is it to your South Node? That can be an interesting placement. That's one of those, like, your feelings will get you in trouble. Maybe not. So this is the fire in the water. And that, I feel like the fire in the water in the Sovereign of Cups is what makes her, typically, them, in this deck, almost carry a passion for making sure, like, everyone is okay. And maybe even themselves sometimes. Whereas the Ruler of Cups, with that water and air, it feels like that's more the mediating. Oh, excuse me. There goes my throat. I'm gonna have to close this down. Excuse me. So your North Node is in your 11th house? And your Moon. All right. Excuse me. My throat is starting to burn. So I gotta end this. I'm surprised I was able to talk this long. No problem. The world with the Six of Coins here. Going back to this, the world with the Six of Coins, with this Sovereign of Cups, instead of that Ruler of Cups, it's like the world can only give you what you give to the world. What you put out is what you receive. But it feels like the ruler of cups with its path. And again, not to necessarily compare. Um, no problem, Emily. It feels like the other energy, it's able to pull more because it connects deeper. And that's because, like, that's how everything was like surface level before. It's like because or if there's a more surface level interaction, then it's like there's a depth to the experience that's not there. And I think a lot of times we would think that oneness is like deep and it's true, how we are all one. We are like, I am you, you are me. But that's surface level. That takes us all back to source. But what about who you are? And what about who I am? And who they are? Because now when we come together as individualized pieces, we can create things that are better. This, it's limited to, again, it's like when two heads are better than one, but it doesn't matter how many bodies there are. If you're all of the same mind, a single mind can only conceive of so much unless it's the all mind, then it can conceive of everything, but we're not the all mind. And so when I have my mind and you have your mind, excuse me, we can work together to conceive of things that neither one of us would have had access to. And now we can experience more than what there was before. But this is an energy, because of this, it experiences more or less the same. Or it has a slower rate of expansion. See, and it reminds me of that Nine of Pentacles energy, the Nine of Coins. Because in the Nine of Coins, you see these two eyes on the scales. These two eyes are focused on the scales. But in the Nine of Coins, the eyes are on the hands, and the hands are like projecting upward everything rather than sort of like waiting to receive it in a way. I had a little bit of honey in my tea, but I don't think I put enough honey in it. Yeah. All right, full moon Pisces. It almost feels like, in a way, full moon Pisces could show us what our limits are. Russell yesterday talked about, I believe, in the full moon equinox reading, something about us being taken to our limits. And it's like when you're at your limit, depending on where you are, when you're at your limit, your perceived limit, you may find that you're actually capable of more. This is the limit. This is the world limited by the Six of Pentacles. And it's almost like maybe this full moon in Pisces will show us what our limits are. But it's not a limitation in a real, well, maybe it's limits on actualizing, because with the moon being in Pisces, it's like maybe the internal will be expanded. But with the sun in Virgo, it's like if there's nowhere for that to go, then it doesn't have an anchor. It's not grounded. It doesn't have a pathway to come into reality, to be real. And so maybe that's where we'll discover those limitations. It's how our ways of thinking, beliefs, daily lives, and practices either support or don't the things that we wish to make manifest. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, we ask for very much and we're willing to do very little. And so there's not much that comes as a result. Because when you don't do very much, you don't get very much. With the world and the Six of Pentacles, this is a coins energy. So it's very like practical, very physical, very tangible. Now, if it was like, air or even fire, there's like, you have the plan, you have the desire, it's going to happen. If it were cups, like you have, like you're open to receiving it, so you're receiving it. But this is pentacles. So it's like, well, what are you doing to get it? It's almost like that law of equivalent exchange. But it's not equivalent exchange. It's like, that's too earthy. There is an exchange, it is equivalent, but it's not all in the element of earth, which is why the cups are here. Right? Maybe it takes some from the earth, it takes some from the spirit, it takes some from the energetic, some from the emotional. There are things in different sectors of our life there are ways in different sectors of our lives that we may have to be flexible and accommodating to that which we wish to experience. So I've never seen Full Metal Alchemist, but I do know that the law of equivalent exchange is there. Russell is on his way to Chichen Itza. He should be on his way to Chichen Itza still, to visit the Temple of the Bearded Man and everything else. I can't wait to see it when he posts it. There we go, finally. Goodness. Nature and Strength. Nature is the card that came out. I feel like nature speaks of alignment. For me, this card it's speaking of how we are perfectly made as is. And how a lot of times it's almost like we defy nature by breaking away from the physicality of our experience, by breaking away from the physicality of who we are and how we're structured and designed, right? With the shadow, with the ego, with the pain and the trauma, with the inheritance of things that aren't necessarily ours. It's all a part of the experience. And when you resolve the inheritance, you get the reward. And I had this question, I guess, a while ago of, if we are to free ourselves by not by unnatural means from certain things that we are attached to, do we suffer in some way because of it? Bottom of the deck is Strength. It's an energy that says, like, we have within us what we need to make manifest that which we wish. But it's a choice of whether or not we do it, and it's a choice of whether or not we choose to take a shortcut. And nothing is one size fits all. There are certain things that no one should ever have to bear. But also, there's an energy where it's like everything comes with a price. And the price of shifting certain things or removing some things, maybe it's an atrophied and weakened system. And it almost takes me back to the Kundalini thing. If you force it before your body is ready for it, and if you experience an adverse reaction, it's because you forced something that should not have been forced. And then to be in a position, well, it's like it's two and two, it's half and half. To encourage others to not force it and to try to find more natural ways of going about it so that they don't send their bodies into shock. Because again, with nature, there's a natural harmony to the physical, the energetic, the spiritual, all of the bodies that we have. But when we reach a certain level of knowledge or desire, that's when we can come in and try to like shortcut or circumvent or try to find ways to energetically speed up and accelerate that which we're physically not ready for. And then we suffer because of it. But it feels like maybe the thing that's lost in that way is the knowing of how to do it. So now, in a very real sense, now whenever we come upon a certain challenge in life, or now when we're being tested, and it's not, I feel like it's not even a test. It wouldn't be a test if you would have gone about it in the proper ways. It would have just been an occurrence that you take care of, right? It's like, oh, something came up, let me go take care of it. Like that's not really a challenge or a test. It's just like, let me do the thing that I've been trained to do in this situation right now to face whatever is in front of me. It's not necessarily difficult, but it feels like the body suffers in some way, or the self suffers in some way, to the point where it's almost like we're artificially um school is the easiest way to think of it, right? It's almost like we artificially go from like kindergarten to the first to the second to the third, grade 4, 5, grade 6, right? Without learning anything. So then you get to grade 7, and it's not even a test. They just ask a question that you should have knowledge and information on because you're in grade 7. So you've gone through grade 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in kindergarten. But then it feels like a test because we've put ourselves in a position that we're not ready for. And that's where we start to experience certain things that we associate with the process that's not necessarily a truth of the process. It is a truth in the way of like how we've gone about it. It's like if you're not ready, then a Kundalini awakening can be this. If you're not ready for second grade, then the second grade could be one of the hardest grades you ever do. But because you weren't ready in the second grade and you went back and you learned everything that you were supposed to learn, that's why after the second grade it got easier. It didn't necessarily get easier, but now you're in the mindset of actually doing those things rather than trying to find a way to sort yeah, rather than trying to find a way to shortcut and circumvent those things. And when you know what is asked of you and you know how to do it, again, it's like that's just like they say in a job, the first like 6 months to a year can be the most challenging and difficult because you're learning the role. And it's not like the job gets easier, you just know more. But some of this stuff, it almost feels like we should have had some of the knowing before we reached the space. Or maybe we're just not like connecting the dots and we need to integrate it. That's why for me, for 2020, my word was integrate, or one of my words was integrate. Because I realized in 2019, I was learning and growing in a lot of ways, but I would repeat the same things. And I was talking to my journey buddy, and she's like, Patrick, you already know what to do. Like, you've already been through this. I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Oh my gosh. So then I had to like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna consciously integrate those things that I learned so I don't have to keep repeating the same thing over and over. And like feeling like it's the first time every time I do it. But anyway, I ain't even been paying attention to the chat. I'm sorry. The Philosopher's Stone, esotericism, excellent, love that. Your nose got a crazy. I don't even know what I said. Oh, don't cry, Tweety. Yeah. That's why for me, like I noticed that and I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. And I think that's another thing that we can bless you. I think that's another thing that we can be really quick to do is to accept certain things as truth because it's been our experience. And then there's also a part that could be the other half of what I was going to say. It's like when we discourage other people from doing something because of the experience that we had, when we may not even have necessarily gone about it the right way. It's almost like if someone's like, don't go to that store because whenever you walk out with something, you get locked up. And it's like, well, did you pay for it? And they're like, no. Pay for it. What does that mean? It's like, okay, well, if you go into like any store and you don't pay for the things you take out of the store, you're probably going to encounter law enforcement. So the problem isn't the store or the energy of stores in general. The problem is that you're stealing and you need to be paying for the stuff because when you pay for it, that's not your experience. So is it a truth? Yes. But it's like a relative truth. And it's a relative truth that in some way takes away from or opposes the truth that that thing holds. And that's why it becomes this game of like unlearning and relearning and stuff like that. And I think there's an energy here that it's like nature accounts for advancement, evolution, progression, and movement. And just like it's not in the butterfly's nature to be a caterpillar all its life, I don't personally believe that it's in humanity's nature to be cavemen all of their lives or to be anything that came before the caveman all of their lives. And I think sometimes we condemn, or sometimes it can be easy for us to look at where society is today and say, oh, we should go back to simpler times, or we should go back to this, we should get off whatever, we should get off that. Like these systems and structures don't work. Excuse me. But it's like maybe those systems and structures don't work because of how we went about it. It's not a truth of the system itself. It's the truth of how we as people have interacted with it. And it's almost like for some of this stuff, it's a question of if we would be willing to sacrifice the gift of what they have to give. And this could be us in our own lives, right? And anyway, it's like, oh, I did this type of work before. I've worked for a company like this before, so it's blah blah blah, whatever. And it's like, well, we've gone through new management. It's like, well, management has changed. It's actually a lot better now, or like there are different cooks in the back, or like we follow the health and safety standards now, where we didn't necessarily in the past. It's like, would we sacrifice the better of what that has to offer because of the experience that we had? And I think a lot of times the answer is yes, because of that Four of Coins, the Hanged One, Conqueror of Coins, King of Wands, or Ruler of Wands, into the Nine of Swords that deflates it and starts it back at the four. That's how we build smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And we seek further and further and further outside, further and further and further off earth, further and further and further into the spiritual. And it's like sometimes we're reaching out so far in ways that it has no path into reality. And we're just sort of like detached and floating in these limbo in between spaces. And it's like, well, that it's almost a direct result of your actions and your choices. I mean, if you choose to run and to continue running, like you're tired and you can't find peace because you're running. I mean, you can stand and fight. Now, if it ain't for you to stand and fight, then keep running. Because Bob and Stranger Things was like, I used to have these nightmares, and I would stop and I would say, I'm not scared of you. And Will did it, and the whole world suffered because of it. They used Will as the conduit to come into this side. It's like, Will, you should have kept running. You should have kept running, Will. Don't listen to Bob. If I'm the Bob in your life right now, and if I step outside of a door and I get gobbled up because I didn't have the sense to like keep going before I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I made it out of there. That's that ruler of wands into the nine of swords. You shut that door, and then the thing come from the other side and grab you and put you back in there. And it's like, Bob, if you would have taken like 10 more steps, my guy, 10 more steps, you would be alive. If I'm the Bob in your life, don't listen to me. Listen to you, your truth. Don't make me a hierophant. I don't want to be anybody's hierophant. I don't. I'm not interested in being a hierophant. Like, I got a Taurus sun, or I got a Taurus moon and rising. My north node is in Sagittarius. But I don't want to be no hierophant. Be your own hierophant. Find your own truth. Use your own words and your own voice. And allow the world to unravel for you in the way that it unravels for you that is natural to you. Because it will work with you naturally in ways that you don't have to follow. It's like it's that Virgo sixth house energy where it's like we adopt the habits and patterns of other people to get their results, but their body is different than our body. So if we try to do what they do, it does nothing for us. And then we're like, well, this person does this and that person does the other thing, and they're getting these results. Why can't I get the same? And it's like, well, that's not natural to you. Your body doesn't function that way. Not everybody can go vegan. Not everybody can be a vegetarian. Some bodies need meat. Some bodies just don't digest stuff in the way that others do. Some people can't eat meat. I have like vegan friends who are like obligate vegans. They're vegans because their bodies like reject everything else. And again, it's relative and it's different for everybody. I don't know why I use that example in particular, but that's just because our bodies are built and structured differently. So it's not going to work the same for everybody. And we need to also take that understanding on as we go out and we try to grow ourselves. Because we don't know what we don't know. And it is for us to try, but to always hold that resonance. And when something stops being effective, or when we can realize, or when we feel pulled and drawn to more, if we feel pulled to sort of like look at something in a different way, because that's how it looks from our perspective, right? We're all orbiting around the grand central sun right now. And so if I'm over here and you're over here and the sun is my face in the middle, we have two completely different perspectives. And we should be able to allow ourselves and others to navigate from these points, because as we navigate around all these points, that's how we get an accurate idea of the grand central sun in the middle. It's not to be here and then to say everything in the other 359.99999 degrees, every other perspective is the same as mine. We lose out on 359.9999999 degrees of the all. We get such a small, like infinitesimally, almost non-existent piece of the truth. But anyway, don't listen to me. Live your life. Live your life. If you want to do what everybody else is doing, do it. If it's working for you, do it. If I'm not working for you, don't listen to me. I feel like I can't repeat that enough. Eight of Swords at the cut. Oof. But anyway. All right. Yeah, Emily Rose. I with the affirmations and stuff. The Hermit. Virgo. See the stars inside of the lantern. We make the whole journey through the dark to find the light. just to discover that the light was there with us like the entire time. And it's the one thing that we held on to the most. And then the Three of Swords at the bottom. Oof. I feel like the light inside of that lantern has the power to resurrect that bird, though. This almost feels like this is the essence of the phoenix. These are its ashes. And it's the essence of the phoenix that interacts with the ashes to rebirth the phoenix. But they're being kept away right now. See the Hierophant for more details. It's our truth. So that's what I got. I hope you all have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to all that you wish to experience. Excuse me, your reality. I am going to find lunch for the week, so I spend less money eating out because I spend a lot of money on food. Okay. I spend a lot of money on like pre-prepared food, and I got like stuff to save for, so I can't do that. But anyway, I will catch you all. Matthew! Finders Keepers, Ben Howard. Boom. Hold on, wait. Let me copy and paste this real quick. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom again. Oh, goodness. All right. I'll find it. I'll keep it up. All right. Y'all have a good whatever. No problem. You're welcome. And I'll see you when I see you.